Hey there, welcome to the channel and my first ever YouTube video. If you don't know who I am, my name is Petter. I've been a Bubble developer for about 10 years now. I've written 2 books on Bubble and I'm the guy writing the Bubble user manual, so you may have seen my work there. And here's the plan. I've spent years writing advanced Bubble content and we will explore that at some point. But since this is my first ever video series, I want to go at it from a slightly different angle first. I want to try to help beginners truly understand how Bubble works. And tutorials are great. They certainly have their place, and there are some really good ones available on YouTube for free, made by excellent bubblers. But I want you to really grasp the why behind Bubble and not just the how. What I'm hoping to do is to help you build a strong foundation so that you can tackle problems on your own and not have to rely on walkthroughs. It's going to take a little bit of time, but at the end, I want you to think like a developer, even if you're not writing code, because I really believe that's what's going to get your project from being just an idea to being an actual live app in the marketplace. If that sounds good, I hope you'll join me. So let's dive in. Okay, so by now I'm sure you register an account, you open up the Bubble editor, and that blank canvas can be pretty overwhelming. There's all these new tabs, there's hundreds of new tools, and plenty of new jargon to learn. It's kind of like stepping into a new job for the first time. You don't know the ins and outs, you don't know who's who, you don't even know where the coffee machine is. And people will tell you to be confident, but no one's confident on day one. The first day, you figure out the basics, you meet a few colleagues, maybe you'll remember their names. By day 2, you have a few allies that can show you the ropes, and after a few days, you start to get less nervous and more comfortable. And that's what confidence is, in my opinion. It's about feeling comfortable in the space around you. And the same is true if you move that over to the screen. You're not going to feel at home the first time you open up the editor, and you probably won't build your dream app on the first day. You probably shouldn't even try. But after a few days of exploring, everything's going to seem more familiar. After a few weeks, you could be building the next big thing. That's how powerful Bubble is. But the first thing I want to do is make the editor a little bit less scary. Everyone's overwhelmed the first time. No one starts out as a pro. But to understand the editor, I want to start with the why. Why does it look the way it does? And to make sense of that, we need to look at what an app actually is and how Bubble's founders wanted to change the way we build them. And that may sound overly basic, but bear with me because it's actually worth exploring, and I promise it will make the editor easier to understand. So Bubble wanted to make app development available to everyone. And like many great ideas, Bubble started in a coffee shop. So picture this. It's a crisp Thursday in New York City, and a guy named Josh is sitting at a table typing away at his computer when Emmanuel walks in. The two had met online and agreed to meet, and they talked for 3 hours about everything under the sun, except for Josh's idea. Josh had hit New York startup scene actually a couple earlier, and he noticed something big. Tons of people wanted to launch tech startups, but almost no one had the resources to do that. Founders were scrambling to find engineers, but the best ones were already working on their own ideas or locked into jobs at major tech companies. You can read the full story on Bubble's blog. I've put a link in the description, but here's the short version. When Josh and Emmanuel met, Josh already had a working prototype of what would become Bubble. And Emmanuel's reaction was essentially the same as my own when I first saw it. He was completely hooked. This wasn't just another website builder. It was a whole new way to build full-scale apps without needing the engineers that everyone was competing for. And here's what set them apart. Back then, and even now, the mantra in tech was learn to code. Everyone pushed the idea that learning to program was just something you had to do, even if you weren't working in tech. But Josh and Emmanuel challenged that thinking. Why force people to learn complex coding when they could build powerful apps without it? What if there was a tool that let anyone create and launch fully functional, secure apps without the need for a professional development team? And with that, they helped kickstart what we now call the no-code movement, which quickly became a buzzword. But let's pause for a second, because no-code is a catchy term. It sounds good and it certainly grabs attention, but it doesn't really explain what's going on. Saying what's missing doesn't tell you what's actually there instead. So what exactly does Bubble offer, and how does that help you make sense of the Bubble editor? To answer that, let's go back to the question we asked earlier. What is an app, really? Sure, you've used tons of apps, but what are they made of? What are the moving parts that make an app work? So imagine you're opening an app on your phone. The first thing that jumps out is, well, design. There's a user interface made up of elements like texts, images, icons, inputs, animations, all sorts of things. And design is the way that technology communicates with you. A good design makes the app easy to use and it makes it look good. So we can all agree apps need a design. But of course, a button isn't much use if it just sits there. When you tap it, something should happen or the app won't be very helpful. So there's our second requirement, functionality. Apps need to respond to user actions. And then there's data. Apps store all kinds of information, user accounts, product listings, social media posts, you name it. And this information needs to be organized and stored somewhere, which is where databases and file storage comes in. And finally, the app needs a home. It has to be hosted so that people can access it. But hosting isn't just about being online. The app needs to run smoothly, it needs to stay secure and have regular backups. It has to load quickly and handle data from maybe thousands of users at once. And that's the final piece, hosting. And each of these components, design, functionality, database, and hosting, represents one unique area of expertise. So traditionally, you need designers and coders for the interface, you need engineers to handle user interactions, you need database experts to manage data, and you need secure servers to host it all. And this is where the vision of Bubble really comes together. So if we make the assumption that most people don't master even one of those disciplines, let alone all of them, it means that each one needs to be handled in an easier way through drag and drop and automation. So like we talked about a minute ago, design is how technology communicates with you. And this is exactly what Bubble is doing. Every discipline that Bubble replaces is on display on the left-hand side of the screen. And it hasn't really changed much since 2012. Design, workflows, data, styles. These aren't just a collection of features thrown together. They're a graphical representation of what's fundamentally required for an app to work. And every aspect of the editor reflects the vision that has driven Bubble from the very beginning. So now, let's have a look at each part in isolation. Design is traditionally written in code, combining HTML, CSS, images, fonts, and icons to make the app or website look and behave in a certain way. And there have been plenty of tools throughout the years to make the process of designing a web page easier, but Bubble's focus from the early days has been to remove the code part altogether. Bubble's design canvas lets you drag and drop all the elements you need directly on the page, essentially drawing the page as you would on a piece of paper. Each of the elements on the page is assigned a set of properties that control how it behaves on different screen sizes and how it responds to user behavior, such as hovering and clicking. And Bubble's design engine is inspired by code but removes it, so everything is handled visually on the screen with close to the same flexibility as code would give you. And the final output is still code. Bubble generates the HTML, CSS, and the other necessary files for you. So that's why Bubble apps work in all browsers. It's not that browsers are compatible with Bubble, but that only the editing experience is codeless. So behind the scenes, Bubble uses the same types of code that power any other web app. As we discussed, fancy buttons and input fields aren't much use if your app doesn't respond to user actions, and that's where the Workflow tab comes in. This is where you tell Bubble what to do when a user clicks a button, uploads a file, or types into a form. Workflows have two parts: a trigger, like clicking a button, and one or more actions that follow that trigger. And just like the design canvas, it's all laid out visually, laying out each step in plain English. By combining actions, you can log users in, you can save data, you can navigate between pages, and much more, all within Bubble's built-in features. Take this example, a sign-up form with a button. Clicking the button triggers the workflow, which runs two actions. First, it signs the user up by creating an account with the form data. Then it navigates the user to another page, like a dashboard. Since actions run in sequence, the user is signed up before being redirected. That's how easily you can create user accounts and guide users through your app. Bubble offers a huge variety of events and actions that you can mix and match to build nearly any type of app you want. Now, signing a user up means we need to store that information somewhere, and that's where the database comes in. The database works a lot like a spreadsheet. You have tables, which is called data types in Bubble. For an e-commerce store, for example, you might have two data types: a user, which Bubble includes by default, and a product, which is a custom data type that you can create. Each data type has fields similar to spreadsheet columns. So for a user, you might add a field like first name, last name, or phone number. For a product, fields could include name, price, image, and descriptions. There are no strict rules. If you need to store specific data, just create a field for it. As we touched on earlier, setting up and managing a database is a drag. Services like Amazon AWS and Microsoft Azure have made it a lot easier, but it's still a highly technical job that requires a certain expertise. So in line with Josh and Emmanuel's vision, Bubble does all of this automatically. The database is created, it's hosted, it's updated, and continually backed up without any technical knowledge needed. Traditional web design uses CSS, or cascading style sheets, to style elements. By setting up what's called CSS classes, you can assign styling options like colors and borders and shadows and fonts to specific categories of elements. By changing the CSS code, all of those elements are updated. This gives you a repository of styles that you can change in one place to make sure your design is consistent and easy to manage. Again, Bubble handles all of this for you. By setting up what in Bubble is called styles, you can create, name, and edit a long list of styling properties, that is, colors, fonts, borders, padding, and even what happens from a styling perspective when a user does something, like hover or click that element. Each element can have a style attached to it, meaning that you can update a specific kind of button or text all across your app by making a simple change in the style editor. So instead of hiring a web designer or front-end developer to set up that CSS code, Bubble sets it up for you, and you can instantly preview the results. You'll notice, of course, that there are more menu options here. Plugins to extend Bubble's features, general settings, logs. We'll get back to those in later videos, but for now, let's focus on how these four can get your app to the marketplace. In the next video in this series, we'll dive into the hows and whys of each of them, so subscribe to stay in the loop, and I'll see you in the next one.